This week on the Bigfooty Blues podcast, we discuss the 150th anniversary dinner, the game against Hawthorn, Levi Casbolt's good game, the Watson situation, and the upcoming game against Greater West Sydney. All that and more on the Bigfooty Blues podcast.
She said, I don't know if I've ever been good enough. I'm a little bit rusty and I think my head is...
And we're off and running for yet another episode of the Bigfooty Blues podcast. I'm ODN and once again I'm surrounded by the creme de la creme of Bigfooty posters. Rumours persist that she sustained a throat injury playing tonsil hockey with Carlton's own Bill Bucks during our 150th anniversary dinner last Saturday night. Rough sport that tonsil hockey, Mevy. Are you okay?
I wish that was the case. I'd be so proud if that was the truth.
We can make up our own truth on the podcast. Also misbehaving at the dinner, but cleverly taking out an injunction to prevent the podcast panel talking about her exploits or issuing a show cause letter. It's Bluebell.
Hi, guys.
I've been following his travels closely this week and am pleased to announce that he has safely returned from Bizarro World, where people wear hats on their feet and hamburgers eat people. I'm happy you got out alive, happy dude.
That's Rand McNally where that happens.
The arrogance has returned because after a lengthy chase he regained his previous place at the top of the Bigfooty post-touring list when he overtook the Brown Dog during the week. It's a prolific HBF.
Oh, yes, the number one title is back. Thank you. Hello, everyone.
And I just have to give a shout-out to absent regular Shandog, who we are praying will make it back next week after he did himself an injury in a manner he previously might have taken for granted. No extra prizes for degree of difficulty, Shandog. I'll leave it at that.
Good effort, mate. Good effort.
High five, Shandog.
How do you do that? Jeez.
Good on you, buddy.
No, just get rid of the trapeze.
Putting in more effort than I ever have.
Oh, happy dude. Come on, pal. Lift your game.
I alluded to it in the intros, but we had the 150th anniversary dinner last Saturday, and a couple of our podcast panelists attended, Mebby and Bluebell. What was the atmosphere like? What were the highlights?
Well, we went to different sections of it. So I had social club tickets, and Bluebell went to the actual, was seated at one of the tables. So we probably have different perspectives, which will be interesting. But for the social club, for an hour before the dinner started, we were upstairs in a room with all the players sort of, I don't know, draping themselves around various bits and bobs of the room. It was weird. They had like an autograph table where players like Murphy, Gibbs, Waite and the bigger names were stationed. Kane Lucas sat there as well, but I think that's just because he's a super babe, not because he's a big name. And the younger kids were sort of more hovering around the edges looking really nervous. The atmosphere was really cool because it was just full of people who obviously loved Carlton heaps, and like it was just full of huge fans really. I managed to grab photos with quite a few of the boys. I think I was the first one to go and get a photo because they all looked a little bit shocked when I just marched straight up to them and demanded a photo with Doherty. But no, it was really fun. And then after that, we were seated sort of in a gallery overlooking the stage, which was good because we had an amazing view and could see like all 16 cups were there, and then Sticks came out and got a standing ovation and all that sort of thing. The disappointing part of the night was quite a few people just wouldn't shut up during the speeches, which really annoyed me because some of them had like... Big Nick's speech was amazing, and I had tears in my eyes a couple of times during the night, not just when they showed Eddie Betts' highlights, but that didn't help. It was just a really fun night. It was nice to be able to celebrate the last 150 years. I got to see some footage that I've never ever seen before, obviously being quite a young supporter in comparison to quite a few people who go for the club. It was amazing how they managed to pretty much erase most of the early 2000s from the collective memory. They managed to pluck out a couple of highlights, but they glossed over it pretty quickly. And disappointingly, they didn't have any news for us on any re-signings of Gibbs or anything like that, but I'm sure all of that stuff will come out in the near future.
What was your highlight, Bluebell?
Oh, look, it was just a great night. It was probably the best event I've been to at Carlton. I was pretty lucky. I sat right next to the assistant coach's table, so I got to chat to a few of them, but just, I guess, being in a room full of, Carlton people was just fantastic. Like, Sticks getting the standing ovation and, John Nichols' speech was just amazing. Like Mebby, it was really overwhelming. But I loved how they opened it with a bit of Greg Champion taunting Essendon and Collingwood. I thought that was great because every single Carlton supporter in the room laughed and clapped, so it was just really funny to take the mickey out of them. But the interviews were good. It was great to see Fev back. I thought that was a really warm welcome for him. Surprisingly, he was sober. But yeah, it was just a really good night. And yeah, lots of fun. So like maybe I had photos with most of the players as well. Even got to meet Ron Barassi on my way out, literally bumped into him. So yeah, no, it was just a great night.
Oh, that's good. Speaking of Big Nick's speech, he made a suggestion. There was we had a couple of past presidents that were poor winners, and that created the perception we were an arrogant club, and that we're not really like that. That was fairly interesting to hear that perspective from him.
They all said some pretty pointed things, I thought, in their speeches. It was quite interesting to hear that they weren't censored at all. Even the guys who were being interviewed weren't censored, and you could tell some of the jokes were a little bit controversial, and there was a whole bit where everyone just bagged the crap out of Richmond for a couple of minutes, which was very much appreciated. But when Big Nick was speaking like that, a lot of people were like sort of cheering for him from the crowd and yelling out and stuff, so he definitely, I think, had the public opinion on his side.
Yeah. So I mean that speech came after he was named as our number one Carlton player of the 150th year. So our top five: Silvani fifth, Jeslenko fourth, Dill third, Kernahan second, and Nichols first. Anybody find the order there interesting?
I thought from the top five that they announced that should be pretty spot on. Sticks to get second, I probably wouldn't have picked straight up, but thinking about it, he's our longest serving captain, dual premiership. He deserves it. So
I guess our supporter base, all ages and so forth. I would have probably had Jeslenko at least up there in our top two. So four was a bit of a surprise to me, but I'll probably Big Nick is a little bit of a mystique, a bit of an aura around the man. I guess he's kind of like our Jonathan Brown presence around the club. He has that sort of just command of the audience. So I guess there's no surprise there in the end. But, I don't know. Some people suggest it might have been a little bit political. Kernahan retiring president, and because he was our longest serving captain and so forth. Great player, Sticks, but. Yeah, I mean, it would have been a tough ask, I guess, and you'll probably ask 10 people and you'll have 10 different opinions, so... Anyway.
I was surprised Juddy wasn't higher up the list. He was number 12. I thought he would have made it into the top 5, actually.
I thought he was right where he should be.
Yeah,
really?
I mean, you look at, he's played, 120 games.
I actually thought when they copped down the top 25 moments or whatever it was a couple of weeks ago, and they put him signing him at number 8, I thought that's pretty sad.
Yeah, I mean, probably a sad reflection of where we were at the time, isn't it?
Yeah.
But,
I'm not so sure about that. That was
it was good moment, but not number 8 in 150 years.
But you hear like people like Mike Sheehan who'd been around footy for decades, and he said at the time that aside from maybe Lockett going to Sydney, that Judd coming to Carlton was probably the biggest player that's transferred clubs since then. So I reckon that is about right in the overall scheme of things. I mean you could have just ranked the 16 flags if you wanted to, but I reckon that was about right, don't you?
Nah, I would have had it further down. It would have been on the list, but I don't think it would have been top 10.
Look, moving right along, last Friday night, Carlton 13-12-90 went down to Hawthorn 18-10, 118. Goals for Carlton, Casbolt 4, Robinson 3, Menzel 2, singles to Gibbs, Thomas, Waite and Walker. Named in the best for Carlton were Judd, Gibbs, Robinson, Casbolt, Rowe, Carazzo and Yaron. Injuries, we had Lockie Henderson and Michael Jamison, who were late withdrawals from the side, replaced by Matthew Watson and Nick Graham. And Hawthorn also had a late dropout with Jack Gunston missing. So there were a couple of big outs for us pre-match. Matthew Watson was subbed out for Nick Graham in the third quarter. And reports in the game, Cyril Rioli was reported for rough conduct against Zach Tui. Subsequently got off because his little snipe missed. Who wants to go first here? HBF?
Yeah, sure. Look, I went to the game quietly confident. I thought if we could bring the intensity and effort that we did against Geelong the previous week, I thought we could really take it up to Hawthorn. That they seem to be off their game a little the last few weeks. I caught most of their game against GWS and they were pretty lucky in the end to get over that. And I didn't see much of the West Coast game, but the bits I did see, they weren't that impressive. So I thought, if we could bring that effort, we'd be riding with their chance. Learning before the game that Hendo and Jamo were out, I pretty much just went, no chance at all. And at quarter time, I thought this is just not looking good. What I did notice at quarter time was that Mick brought the players in as a group. They actually didn't go to their line coaches until right at the very end of the quarter time huddle. So hence the second quarter comeback, which was great. I guess probably the positives that came out of that game was Judd's return. He just never missed a beat. He's just a remarkable player, and there's been some speculation about won't he go on next year, and I think from what he showed us on Friday night that he really should definitely go on next year. Thought Casbolt played the best game for the club. I think we're going to touch on that a bit later. So that mark in the second quarter, I was actually sitting down that end of the ground, and it was just an unbelievable mark. And just having a look at the stats before, Murphy had 28 touches, and I know he had a lot of the ball, but just really didn't notice him that much. So it's good that he's getting touches against some of the better teams. Probably the negatives to come out of that was just not playing 4 quarters. I mean, you just can't give Hawthorn was it a 5 or 6 goal head start and expect to peg them back. I mean, we did a really good job to peg them back and actually get in front, but they were just too powerful in that last quarter and they just overran us. And just the form of Armfield and Watson. I know this has been on the boards a bit, but I'm not sure what it is with Watson. He's just whether it's a lack of confidence or his mobility or something. But yeah, he had a shocker on Friday night, and I'm not sure what's going on with Armfield. He whether it's that interrupted pre-season or again same with Watson, like he has lost a bit of confidence. I think he'd probably be lucky to survive the cut this weekend into the final 22. Just one more thing. I did post it on the board, but that Andrew Walker guy right at the end of the game, the ball actually flew right past me, so I actually managed to get a stat that night as well. So Thai and I actually had a stat for the Hawthorn game, so that really should be put on Big Footy somewhere. No, just joking.
Oh, he's not just content to brag about his post count. He's actually bragging about his stats. Games he goes to.
What was your disposal efficiency?
Well, I was sitting up on the second level, so I've just handballed it, and it's probably gone some poor little kid down in the cheer squad. But yeah, I'm not sure, so I'll take a disposal efficiency of 100%. Thanks.
All right, Bluebell, how do you see it?
Pretty much how HBF saw it. I guess we just ran out of puff. I thought we really took it to them in the second and the third quarter. We had a lot of the momentum. Yeah, I guess if Watson had to kick that goal after that mark, the game could have changed. We could have either put our foot down and kept going. I thought that was a big momentum killer. But look, very proud of them. I thought they stood up. Casbolt, he's just getting better and better every week. Looks like he's changed his kicking style, which is really good. It was disappointing to see the 2 late outs, losing 2 key position players against Hawthorn never helped, but good to see them back this week. But yeah, look, it's been a really up and down year, but when they try, they really have a crack. And look, this can only get better from here, I guess. So, that's pretty much it.
Okay. Happy to.
Yeah, the other two have touched on, obviously, the most obvious points about the game. I thought with our 2 late outs, we did well in those areas of the ground. Like, obviously, Gibson didn't play, so he didn't kill us going forward. And Jared Ruffhead, I don't think, really had a night out. He's a good player, so he's always going to have an impact, but he didn't, come out and dominate us like I thought he might with Henderson and Jamison being out. I thought Rowe did very, very well. It showed us exactly what type of defender Rowe is. The way I see it, you've got 2 sort of key backs. You got the one and two sort of key forwards. You got the key forwards that like to roam around a bit and are a bit more mobile. And Sam Rowe looks like he's the sort of defender to play on those closer to your. Well, Nick Rewalt's a gun, but that sort of mobile player he's more suited to rather than the gorilla stand in the goal square and beat you one-on-one like Tom Hawkins. So that obviously showed us that against Geelong, he was just playing on the wrong sort of player, and he was always going to be outbeaten for his strength, whereas he could go with Ruffhead and sort of cut him off at the ball while he's trying to be a bit more mobile. So Sam Rowe gets all the thumbs up from me. He had a brilliant game. Obviously, Judd came back, didn't miss a beat. I thought Gibbs had a bit of a slow start, but he stepped it up when it really got tough and close. As mentioned, Watson missing that goal was a bit of a momentum killer. I think Waite also missed one from, not directly in front, but pretty damn close where he should have kicked one around the same time as well. I reckon we had to kick both of those. We probably could have come close to winning, but, onwards and upwards. Let's beat GWS this week. I've got a good feeling this time.
Oh, heard that before. Maddie, I'll save you for last just to save your voice a little bit.
Thank you. My heart sank when I heard before the game that Jamo and Hendo were both out. Like they're 2 absolute keys that I just lost all confidence then and there. But there were some really positive signs from the game. Obviously, Judd coming back in the way that he did. He's such a champion. And before he came back, I was thinking, maybe this will be his last year. But as HBF said, hope if he's going to play like that, then let's just keep him on forever. It was good to see Casbolt finally impact the scoreboard in a really big way. Lots of people have commented that his routine has changed, but I don't know if that's true because normally when he's kicking for goal, I have my hands over my eyes, so I don't know what his routine actually looks like. But I was really excited to see him kick 4, and that mark was incredible. Everybody vote for it as Mark of the Week, please. Every week I get a little bit more impressed by Rowe. He's doing so well, especially considering how everybody spoke about him last year, and he was, sort of one of those people that we didn't really rate too highly, but he's just playing his role really well. I think that was the first time I've actually been disappointed in Everett's performance. I don't think he had a very good game. He seemed to always be 2 steps behind, and he wasn't his usual composed self. But I think on a positive note that the length of time that the team is collectively putting in 100% effort is gradually increasing each week, and their fade outs are getting shorter, even though it did kill us sort of in that last quarter when they completely ran out of puff. And I have to say that I was so angry in the last quarter at one point. There was Daisy, Carazzo and Menzel all standing in the centre with their hands on their knees, just watching Hawthorn kick another goal against us. And I know that, we were losing, but you've still got to at least look like you're trying. I just thought that was a really pathetic effort. It really made me angry. So at the end of the day, we lost, but we did a lot better than I expected of us, especially when I found out that Jamo and Hendo weren't playing.
I noticed that again we won the contested possessions and the tackle count, which are usually my indicators for having a pretty good game, but we just got blown away with the inside 50s. I think it was about 60 to 46 or something like that. And you could sort of only put it down to critical errors and critical times. And I think just the amount of uncontested possessions Hawthorn had compared to us, and that just allowed them to use their class in their run. Disposal efficiency was good for both teams, so we can't really point to butchering the ball as such, but just when you get out in space, they've got too much class for us to shut them down. And the likes of Hill, Rioli, Smith, Suckling, they really carved us up in that regard. And how we can leave somebody like Suckling hovering around the 50, with no pressure to have a shot on goal, I don't know. But 22 contested marks to 6 in favour of Carlton, which is massive. Sort of Waite and Casbolt and Rowe took 3 contested marks as well, we're talking about how well Rowe was going. 14 disposals, 6 marks, 3 contested, and 11 1%ers is a pretty good effort for somebody who was like going to be our Presty, I guess, and hard barely touch the ball and just punch all the time. So he's actually getting a little bit of confidence. Now it's time for On Fire and Under the Pump. It's time for On Fire Under the Pump once again, and with On Fire this week, it's HBF. What have you got for us?
Yeah, look, I really wanted to talk about Levi Casbolt. His last 2 games have been pretty good. I mean, he against Geelong, he had 16 touches, 8 marks, laid 3 tackles and kicked 1-1, and that 1 goal was from a really strong mark in the goal square up at the Lockett end of the ground. Against Hawthorn, he didn't have quite as much of the ball. He had 12 touches, took 5 marks, laid 1 tackle, but amazingly kicked 4 goals straight. Probably, 2 things really stood out for me on Friday night against Hawthorn. First one was that amazing pack mark in that second quarter. We all know that he can clunk it pretty well. That mark was exceptional. I mean, we've had, listening to talk back in Melbourne over the weekend and early this week, some of them are saying that it's definitely a potential Market of the Year contender and even better than Wingard's from the week before. So an amazing mark by Levi. The second one is his kicking. Certainly changed his action. He seems to be running out to the right and sort of hooking it around. Whether that's something that's sustainable over a period of time, I'm not sure, but it's certainly a technique that is working for him at the moment. His ball drop is still a bit of an issue, but that primarily just comes from him not really growing up playing footy. I think he played soccer prior. I might be wrong on that, but I think I heard someone say he's not a like.
Yeah,
not
he
a,
was. Yeah.
Yep. So that's probably held him back. I mean, he really has sort of come a long way from the infamous booze cruise where he was tied to who on that boat. So look, I couldn't be any happier for him. I remember seeing him play at Dandenong when he was still under 18, and he was just a big lump of a kid that sort of trudged around the park and took a couple of marks, and his kicking was. Ugh. And to see that he's come this far, to potentially being able to hold down centre forward for us moving forward, I think it's great. It'll be good to see how he goes this week against GWS, just to see if he can maintain that form that he's shown over the last 2 weeks. But yeah, look, I mean, I know we've touched on, or you guys have touched on Rowe and how good he's been down back, which he has. But yeah, look, Levi was just enormous on Friday night, and I really do hope he can. And continue that. It might actually limit the talk on the boards about how we're sort of desperate for another key position player. I mean, we've still got even let's just say Waite retires at the end of the year. We've got Casbolt and Hendo up forward. We've got Rowe and Jamo down back with Giles, developing in the reserves as well. So look, I do hope we take another key position player, but look, I think if Levi can hold this form, I think we might have found a pretty solid centre forward for the next 7 to 10 years.
Yeah, no debate from me on that.
Yeah, about the kicking action and, you know, arcing it to the right or whatever term you used about him sweeping and kicking from the right, and you don't know if it's sustainable. I think maybe you should ask Buddy Franklin about that. Because he tends to have a bit of an arc too, which they deem to be his natural arc, and they can't call it play on. So I think if Buddy Franklin can do it, Levi Casbolt can do it.
Where did this natural arc thing come from? That
Well,
never used to be a thing, did it?
Well, no, it didn't. Well, what happened was, obviously no one ever picked up Buddy for doing it, and he does it every friggin' time. And then one game, it might have even been against the Saints a couple of years ago, the umpire there, every time he tried to take a shot at goal and he did that natural arc thing he's been doing it, no one had ever called him on before, this umpire kept calling play on every time he stepped off the mark. And then Hawthorn said, what the hell, like, you know, you've never picked him up on it before, why are you doing it now? And then the umpire boss came out and said, oh, it's just the way he runs up, he should be allowed to do that, which isn't in the rules, but there's an exception for Buddy Franklin.
Right.
Yeah, that's where that natural arc thing comes from.
People, you know, if they don't have it corrected out of their game, they generally run out to the left or right, as the case may be, to get a little bit of extra distance on their kicks. Some just to find, so it is a little bit unfair, but
he's got a big arc though. That's what
Yes, but when you depending on what side of the ground you're on, if Buddy's a left footer, if he's on the left side of the ground, he's actually he's increasing his angle. So but on the other side of the ground, he's actually opening it right up, and that's why.
Because Hawthorn wanted the 50-metre penalty because the umpire had called play on, which I don't think some of them heard, and the guy ran off the mark at him.
Well, Levi seems to be really just a case of belting the living suitcase out of the ball. Kick right through it, no matter where he is. So, whereas we were thinking we want him 10 metres out from goal because there's less chance of missing, it's just the way he's actually decided to kick right through the ball now, and with a little bit of confidence. I'm happy for him to be out near the 50 doing that.
Oh, definitely.
Look, we don't really have anything structured planned for under the pump. There's probably just a couple of things. Just a really quick mention, and whether it's fair or not. Obviously, Matthew Watson sort of he's come in at the last minute. He was thrown to the wolves with no Jamo and Henderson in the side to help out. You know, it's well documented. He made a couple of errors on Friday night, and he's out of the side again, as you'd expect if those two guys come back. So I guess from our supporter base and a lot of people watching the game at the time, you're certainly under the pump on the Bigfooty boards. No doubt about that. Yeah, you've probably got to wait and see how he goes, if he gets a sustained run at it at some point. And he strikes me as being a confidence player like Levi Casbolt, and who would have thought Casbolt was going to come along as he has. So maybe we should go a little bit easier on Watto.
I think the signs were there with Casbolt. Like, he's always been able to get the ball and obviously clunk it. Even like his mobility for someone of his build is really good. He's good on the ground. It was just getting that kicking right. Whereas with Watson, like, he's the biggest weapon he's got is that left leg. His mobility, even as a junior, was questionable, and it's just being found out at AFL level. I really don't know what to do with him. I mean, I defend our players as much as anyone on Big Footy. I just don't see where he fits in the overall scheme of things. Whether he goes back to the Northern Blues and just tries to get his confidence back. But I almost think we cut our losses with him and see if Giles comes along.
Even when he's playing in the VFL, though, it's not like he's carving it up there. When I saw him a couple of weeks ago against Sandringham, he always looks like he's plodding along, and I don't know if that's going at full pace or if he's just not putting in the effort. And if he is going at full pace, he's far too slow and he has the turning circle of a truck. And if he's not putting in 100% effort, then that disappoints me just as much for different reason. I normally defend people to a fault, and people get annoyed at how defensive I can be over it. But with him, I just can't see it happening, and that makes me feel bad because he hasn't ever, especially this year, had an extended run at it. But he's not beating down the door at VFL level either.
Yep, I agree. Yeah, well, I mean, Harker and medium-sized Red, they go to the VFL regularly, and they differ on that because they claim he's being a real general down back. And doing fairly well, but as you said, when you saw him, he wasn't doing so well.
Everybody has different perspectives. I mean, obviously they go every week. I don't go every week, but when I do go, that's the way I've seen it.
Yeah, I mean, they might be.
Maybe.
They might be looking for more than just, I guess, the stats and the general play. They might be listening to the talk and his body language and stuff like that. That probably doesn't matter. It doesn't really hit the stats sheet at the end of the day. So, and they've obviously got an affinity for the boys playing VFL, and they talk them up every week. So, yeah, I mean, look, it's a worry. It is a worry because you can. If you're a forward who can take the contested marks, you don't have to do too much more around the ground. So Levi had the bare ingredients to work with there. He had the essentials for a forward. I'd rather take a contested mark over somebody who can kick straight because he's going to get the ball at least. Whereas if you can kick well, it doesn't guarantee you're going to get the ball. So Watto's attribute is his kicking. He's supposed to be an elite kick, and I don't put much stock in that little chip turnover to Andrew Walker that probably had us all tearing our hair out, and that miss shot at goal from right in front, not far out. That's a little bit of an aberration for somebody of his kicking skills. He was obviously, his confidence was absolutely shot at the time, and I would guess that's what happened there. But you've got to be able to get if you're going to be a defender, you've got to be able to play one-on-one. You've got to be able to get the ball. You've got to be able to read the ball faster than the forward. And mobility is a key part of it. So, look, I hope he can get reinvented in some way because he does have some skills, but he's probably being a little bit, except for last year when he had a little bit of a run and looked good, he's probably seemed a little bit down on intensity in his career thus far, and that's something that now departed Bootsma was criticised for as well. So he's a long way off it at the moment, and his saving grace is probably the fact that we don't have key position players on our list.
At the disco when I think I've got a ball, I ask her lots of questions as she hangs onto the wall. I kiss her for the first time and then I take her home. I'm invited in for coffee and I give the dog a bone. She likes to go to discos but she's never on her own. I said I'll see you later and I'll give her some old chat, but it's not like they on the TV when it's cool for
Okay, moving right along. On Sunday at 1:10 p.m, Carlton take on GWS at Spotless Stadium. The two sides have clashed twice, with Carlton winning both by large margins. GWS had probably the best win ever when they beat Brisbane by 45 points on the weekend. So looks Carlton wouldn't want to take them lightly, certainly being up there in Sydney. Jamison, Henderson, Curnow and Johnson are our ins at the moment, with obviously 3 to come out. And Watson is the only one dropped thus far. How do we see that game unfolding, Mebby?
Well, first of all, I'm so excited that Curnow's back. I've missed him a lot, and he's really gone from someone who was sort of on the fringes of the team, in my opinion, to someone who I've just been desperate to have come back. And so I'm so happy that he's finally getting a chance. I mean, back from injury, not that he was dropped or anything, but hopefully his leg has healed and he hasn't lost too much fitness. We all know what an endurance player he is, so I'm very much looking forward to seeing him run around again. Geez, I hope Hendo and Jamison are 100% recovered, because if they are brought back in too early and they have a setback, I'm going to be really mad, and I'm going to go down to Visy Park and just have a word to them, because that would just really push me over the edge at the moment. I think it all depends on which Carlton turns up. We know what our team is like, and sometimes against teams that are below us on the ladder, we can go in a little bit complacent and just try and phone it in. Hopefully we don't do that and we come out with more killer instinct and can put them away. I find it interesting that GWS is calling Jeremy Cameron's injury a minor ankle injury when he's in a moon boot. They're saying he's 70% likely to play, but I think they've added 2 tools to their team, so I'm assuming he's not going to play. I think if the right Carlton turns up, we'll win this and we'll win comfortably. So I'm going to call it 5 goals.
Wow. Okay. Moon boots are fashion statements, by the way.
Maybe I should get a pair.
Happy dude. How's it going to play out?
GWS have come a long way since last year, I reckon. They've been quite competitive at times this year. We obviously can't take them lightly. We've seen what we can do against the bottom 3 teams so far already. Drop games, all 3 of them. So hopefully we don't make it 4. We should win this. I reckon we should win it comfortably if we rock up. interestingly, both teams are ranked quite low down in the disposals, handballs, and kicks, like specifically. They are, however, ranked third for tackles, second for hitouts, and first for clearances per game, and third for rebound 50. So they're actually starting to put it together. Yeah, and start to gel a bit more as a team and have that sort of flow coming across half back, getting it into the forward line. So if we go in a bit complacent into the forward line, they'll hurt us on the rebound, especially with Shaw there this year. They're also third in clangers per game. So they're still making those mistakes that you often get with the younger players and the kids and stuff. So hopefully we can capitalise on that. And yeah, I don't want to see us go down to GWS, but I don't know. I reckon we'll win by 46 points. So GWS by 60.
You got to stop doing that, Happy Dude. It doesn't work.
No, it's not working, mate. It's like a dog with a bone, I think. Bluebell.
Oh, I'll probably get shot for saying this. I feel that this is a danger game. I've seen Carlton do it time and time again. They go up interstate, play a low side, and just don't even try. I just pray that our guys actually have a crack on Sunday and don't go in too complacent, like Happy Dude said. You know, we should put the foot down and play well because our form's been pretty good since the Brisbane game. But look, it's good to see Jamo and Hendo back. Yeah, I haven't decided whether I'm going yet. Sorry, guys. But you can't blame me because my record against GWS is good. But yeah, look, we should win, but it's still a danger.
Yeah, absolutely. HBF.
I'm with Happy Dude on this one. I'm actually really confident about this game, primarily because we've been in the games for so long against Geelong and Hawthorn. I think Mick will have the boys just really focused and primed for this game and just to make them play 4 quarters of footy. I appreciate that it's a ground that we've never played at before, but I reckon maybe a 10-12 goal win. I'm just feeling really confident about Sunday. I think after a big night on Saturday night, I think the boys will really want to come out and prove something. So yeah, I reckon 10-12 goal win on Sunday.
I hope you're right. I really do, because I think we need it. Just, we've played so well.
Yeah. I'm actually feeling it this time.
If you guys are right, I'll high-five the shit out of you, but I don't think it's going to happen.
No, I'm not confident to say 10 goal, but I reckon it'll be close to 50 points our way.
Oh, it's pretty rare for me to feel this confident, but I just think, even if you want to go back a week further to Brisbane, I think that one hurt us. We've lost 2 close games and we were right in it with Hawthorn. I just think the boys will really want to prove, that they can play. GWS is still a bit unknown. I think just whether they can produce another game like they did against Brisbane. And really, I was flicking between that game and whatever other game was on. I think it was the North Melbourne Adelaide game. And really, GWS only got on top when Jonathan Brown went off. Up to then it was sort of neck to neck. So if we bring intensity and effort again like we did against Geelong and Hawthorn, I reckon we'll win and win quite well.
Yeah, look, GWS's strength is those some of the classy mids they've got in there and the quick ball movement and whatnot in tight. And Carlton have got some hard bodies in the midfield, and Judd's back as well. But Gibbs and Murphy have sort of discovered a little bit of consistency and a defensive work rate as well. So our whole midfield really has been shown a lot more intensity than we've sort of come to expect over the years, and I think intensity's the only reason that we lose these sorts of games. Whereas I could see after playing a couple of top teams and putting in a good effort and going down might give us a little bit of a drop off in that intensity in previous years. With Judd just back, I don't see that happening because Judd's keen as mustard, and he showed that against Hawthorn, and when Juddy's that keen, it's fairly infectious. And I think the pressure's building. Those close, being in games and losing, I think we're not sitting back. We won't be sitting back on our laurels going, okay, near enough is good enough, and thinking, hey, we're competing with the big boys and getting ahead of ourselves. And that's our only danger. We're more physically developed, and I think long term, GWS probably have more talent in their side, but that talent's not ready to compete physically with Carlton just yet. So I don't want to predict a margin. It could be anywhere between 2 and 8 goals, I'd suggest, but hard to say. Up there in Sydney, probably a little bit closer than we think, but we should win. I don't see any scope for us losing.
I've actually just got a question about this game on Sunday. Has Judd actually played against GWS before? Because I know...
No.
He's been rested both times.
Yeah, I knew he'd been rested once. I couldn't remember the other time whether he was rested or not.
I'd never noticed that, to be honest.
That's why people are saying he'll go up there and all the GWS kids are like, we want to play with Juddy, and then they'll all play for us next year.
They were talking about it on 360 before. I think it was Trelaw, and he said, did Trelaw grow up being a Carlton supporter?
Yeah.
And he was saying that he was his idol, and he can't wait to play on him, and after the game he's definitely going to shake his hand and try and get a few pointers, and
that's
he's met him
so
before.
cute.
Yeah, it was really good. It was really good.
Was it Edsel one saying that he actually still has a membership, a Carlton membership?
Yeah, her brother's
really?
friends with
her
brother's friends with him.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, so
I
we've
like
got to try and
that.
Let's
get
get
him
busier.
back.
Yeah.
I reckon Juddy just needs to have a word in his ear when he goes to shake his hand. Just be like, come play for us next year.
I reckon
Juddy
just needs to wink at him. Just be like, you know what's going on. And
just buy him a coffee or something and get him on board.
Well, we want to bring him down to Carlton, not sleep with him.
I've got a better idea.
Hang on, sorry. Why would buying
get
him a
some
coffee?
Get
no.
some coffee. I've been listening to Cool for Cats too much lately.
Obviously. Maybe he should send him a direct message on Twitter. That could work.
Well, it hasn't worked for you.
I'm discerning though. I don't know what Trelaw's like. He might be a bit easier.
No, I was going to say, Judd could walk past Trelaw and say, this could be your number when I retire.
I'll keep it warm for you.
There you go.
I like that.
When you come down, can you bring Cameron with you too?
Yeah.
Well,
Tom Boyd, either one.
Yeah, well, Tom Boyd's been he's been named for GWS as well, and Dylan Shields, he's a Carlton supporter as well. So
Trelaw's 50th game this weekend too.
We'll get them all. Yeah. Mind you, he's also a mad Dwayne the Rock Johnson fan. As I saw a video, and he said they've organised. GWS have organised for him to interview The Rock because he's in Australia doing a movie, and he said he'll cry. He loves Juddy and he loves The Rock, but he loves The Rock more. So I think we a few years ago when we brought out their stupid bloody motto about smell what we're cooking.
Don't bring it up.
Well, no. See, it would have worked if The Rock actually came and actually said it in an ad for Carlton, because that was his catchphrase.
I think it's bright red because I'm embarrassed that was attached to us. Like I cringe. Oh, it's the one bumper sticker I never put on my car.
Oh, I still put that on my car because I found it ironically funny. Like, because it was just so bad. It was like 85 alive. Like, it's just poor. Very, very poor. So I wore that one with pride. I was like, look how crap this bumper sticker is, everyone.
Bluebell, if you actually go up there on Sunday, maybe you could do some recon work for us as well. Maybe see if you can seek out a few of the Carlton supporting GWS players and maybe, tell them what a great club it is.
I'll do that gladly.
Excellent. Well, you now have my permission to go up to Sydney.
Thank you, HBF.
There we go. We've got an unofficial scout on board. We did say HBF was probably going to take over from Shane Rogers at the national draft this year due to all the controversy. So he's already sent somebody out for a mission. So
I already know Christian Petraka's player number, so I'm good to go with that.
All right. I think we'll wrap it up there. And I'll say good night to Happy Dude.
Good night, y'all.
Good night, Mevy.
Good night, everybody.
I'll get better.
Oh, thank you.
Good night, Bluebell.
Good night, everyone. Go Blues.
And good night, HBF.
Good night, everyone. Happy hunting, Bluebell.
Hope you catch something.
Hang on.
Well,
Wait.
that's the reason.
Oh, you
Good night,
guys.
everybody.